So it's wonderful to be live during Mercury retrograde. We didn't expect trouble, but of course we should have. So we're 2 minutes late. And if you're here with us, please say hello. Let us know that you're hearing us well, that everything is really okay. Wave, say your hellos. There will be, I'll soon introduce ourselves as well. There is going to be a delay of 2 or 3 minutes because we're sharing the Zoom via Facebook because I'm here in Israel and Jane, my wonderful friend Jane, is in the UK. So this is kind of an international broadcast. So hello everyone. I am Karni, and I'm an astrologer for the last 20 years. And I also teach astrology. My astrology school, which is was declared one of the 5 top places in the world to learn astrology in. So this is wow lately. So I'm absolutely, this is very, very exciting. And Jane, uh, Jane, do you want to start by saying a few words about yourself, and then I'll tell some other things about you?
I'm Jane. Karni and I have known each other and worked together for a long time. I am not an expert on astrology at all. Um, I also, however, I have a love of the seasons and the rhythm of the seasons, and I love the way this interacts with astrology.
Yeah. So the truth is that Jane says she's not an expert, but actually, she's the one who really put me on track with some very, very important things. If you know my work, you know I'm working with the new astrology for the last almost 10 years now, at least 7. And this all started with a conversation with Jane, which really follows the natural rhythms of the universe. So it all started discussing this thing with Jane. So she's a big, 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 big part, planting the seeds of the new astrology. And also my book, Astrology. What is my name? What's the name of my book? Stories of Ancient Astrology couldn't have been written without you, Jane, who is was still I don't know, my editor first, my mentor second, and she also put in some if good chapters in the book that she wrote. So Jane is brilliant and amazing, and whenever I don't know something, maybe I'm exaggerating to say I'll ask Jane, but for today for sure I'm actually hosting Jane rather than, giving a meeting as I usually do, because we're going to talk about something that I know nothing about apart from the few discussions that we had prior to this meeting. So I'll introduce the subject, but today I'm really hosting here Jane, and please share your questions as well, and I'll share mine. So if you're having any questions, just put them in the comments. We'll have a little delay, so it might take a while till we see the question, but please do share, say your hello, tell us where you're from, give us a wave, a hi, a like, whatever, because the only way for us to know that we're not just talking amongst us is by you commenting. So I'll give the introduction for today. Today we're going to talk about the 4 less known sacred cosmic gateways or holidays or timings. And usually we know about the 4 natural timings or holidays connected to planet Earth, which are the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. And this is, if this would be planet Earth, planet Earth symbol in astrology is the cross, the planetary cross inside of the circle. And if, yeah, and if you think about that also as a calendar, yes, and we have the two equinoxes. If this is 360 days, we have the two equinoxes in March and September, the two solstices in December and in June. But it turns out that there are four more sacred times, okay, in between these holidays, which I knew nothing about. And I'm wondering also, why is that, Jane? Maybe soon you'll tell us. Is it more celebrated in the Celtic tradition? Why did we lose that? Maybe, people know of it, but here in Israel, we don't know of it. But it's very interesting. How come we lost this sacred knowledge? And one of these very important days is tomorrow, February 2nd. I don't even know how to pronounce. How do you pronounce tomorrow's holiday, Jane?
Well, the traditional name that people call it is Imbolg, but maybe it needs a new name.
Which is very, very important, because part of what we're trying to do, I'm also managing the questions and everything in the meantime. So I'll say hello to Anne, our friend, also from the UK. Jane, you should meet Anne, she's so wonderful. So hi, Anne, good to know that you're here. So, oh, and I lost the path of my thoughts whilst saying hello to Anne. Oh, yes. So we're trying to retrieve ancient holidays. We're trying to discover what the ancient ones knew, and we lost. But together with that, we are also trying to update the holidays. So what is the relevance for today? So, Jane, what is the Imbolg, and what are the four sacred holidays? How come we don't know about them? What is their meaning? What should we do tomorrow? Yes.
Well, as this is a Celtic festival, there is an Irish joke, which is, if you're going to get there, you can't start from here. You have to start in a different place. And the place we need to start at, I think, to give it a context, is actually with the equinoxes and the solstices. So here I have my very high-tech explanation of the solstices and the equinoxes. This is an apple from our garden with a chopstick through it, and that is planet Earth. Here is the sun. This is not to scale, because just
no, not to color, no.
So the planet Earth tilts because the North Pole points towards the pole star always, and always when it turns the same way, and it goes around the sun. And what we have just left is the winter solstice, when the sun was overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. And as the planet moves around the sun shines, that comes to the point of the equinox where you can't see the sun now, but it is overhead at the equator. And then as we move towards June to the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, the sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. So it moves, and then it comes. I can't twist my arms enough, and then it comes back again. So we have these 4 points, as Karni was saying, and these are the framework of our planet, of the planetary experience of the rhythm of the year. And so I would like to, and each of them has a different nature, but the solstices are quite, one solstice is one extreme where the sun reaches its northernmost point, and the other solstice, it reaches the southernmost point on the planet. Mm-hmm. So it is it is a peak moment. Each of them is a peak moment. And so if you think about summer, what are the words that go with summer? What is your experience at summer? Now, where I am in England, it is very difficult to even imagine summer. It has been cold and dark and damp. And
so I can tell about summer being Israeli.
Please do. What are the words for summer?
Hot and yellow, and things become ripe, and there is lots of sun and brightness, and
yes,
days are long.
Yeah, and because of the brightness, there is definition, there is strong shadows, and you see everything very strongly defined. Yeah, it's very clear that is there and this is here, because it's all very separated. And yeah, that's the experience of summer, and it's just wonderful. I miss it so much.
We should exchange in the summers. You come to Israel with the 40 degrees Celsius at summer, and I'll breathe some English air. I'll say also hello to Gafneet, our friend who joined us. So if you're here with us, please say hello, state where you're from. It's wonderful that you're here. Say where you are from the world, because it's an international broadcast and we would love to hear from you. So hello to our friend Henrik van Nurdenen from France. It's wonderful to see you. And hi, Ashley from the US. It's great to see you. We're with a few bits of moments of delay, but everybody who says hello is also part of this happening. You're also welcome to share your questions about this subject.
So, summer. If you can, so here we have very quickly evoked summer, that absolute bright, strong colors, strong shadows, and so much light around. Then we have the opposite solstice, which is winter, which is misty, internal. There are no shadows. It's misty. You can't find, there are no hard edges. Everything is not so defined. And it's very much more of an internal time where you need to stay inside, have the fire in front of you, and have the door closed behind you. That's the winter experience. And these are two states which have something in common. So if I can just share screen, if I can find what I want to share, which is this one, you can see here we have the same design that Karni did, and we have June the 21st and December the 21st, and these are the two state times where either it is very bright or it is very dark, but it is there is a specific quality with each. Now, then we have the other line, the horizontal line, which is the transition time as you move from one to the other, because this is the time, if I stop the share screen, stop share, this is the time when the sun is overhead at the equator and it's moving. So on March the 18th, the sun is overhead in the southern hemisphere. Come a few days and it's overhead in the northern hemisphere. This has made a transition. It's another world.
Maybe I'll add a few things. First, to say hello to Lisa, our friend from the US. It's wonderful that you're here. Marissa is the wonderful person who translated all my work to Portuguese. So hi, Marissa. You can see behind me the astrological cards in Portuguese in the blue box. This is thanks to you. Einav from Israel. So it's wonderful really to see everybody. If you're here with us, say hello. Please send us like love, like things like that, so we know that we're on the right track in your questions. And I do also want to add something about the polarity of planet Earth. I'll bring my gadget, which I love to use. which is actually the battery. Yes. And this is because during the solstices, yes, when the winter is extremely winter on one side and the summer is extremely summery on the other, the polarity of planet Earth is very, very, very strong. Yes. And during the equinoxes, there is something much more a balance. This is the time where there is the same amount of light wherever you are in the world. And this brings also another question to mind. Yes, we might not answer it today, but what are the holidays of the South Hemisphere? Because just recently, yes, people in Australia celebrated Christmas in mid-summer. And it really doesn't make sense because the two halves of the world are exactly opposite, and hence we're together, and hence it's like a battery because the energy comes from the extreme polarities, which is something very interesting. The whole planet Earth is a huge magnet electrical machine, electromagnetic machine. It creates an electromagnetic field. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. Yes, because when one is happening in one hemisphere, the other one is happening in the other hemisphere at the same time. And so it's just this extraordinary process that is happening. I want to share another picture now, which is this one. So now I have marked the state time of summer of the quarter of the year where there is maximum sunlight in the northern hemisphere. That's there, which is the yellow. And the other state time where there is minimum sunlight in the northern hemisphere, also yellow. And then the equinoxes are these transition times, very different nature. And so what we are in tomorrow is the changeover of the end of winter into the new time of spring. And that's where these 4 other festivals come in.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, astrologically, if there are, some of my students here, just people who know astrology, then the 4 celebrations, the solstice, the equinoxes and solstices, also mark the beginning of each quarter and the entrance to a cardinal sign. So the beginning of spring would be the beginning of Aries, the beginning of summer, beginning of Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, or all the cardinal, very, very active, very, very strong frequencies. And it's also something very radical because we're moving from a minus. We'll always have a minus, yes, a mutable sign into a cardinal, which is a plus sign. So these are very, very dramatic changeovers. But these middle places are exactly in the middle of the neutral sign. So we're talking about something different, right? It's like more silent, more neutral. We're not, maybe this is part of why we're not hearing about these celebrations so much. It's something much more less dramatic, maybe. I'm asking you, Jane.
It's more subtle, I think, and however, it feels a very important thing to try to get a sense of, because I think this is the rhythm of our home, of Mother Earth. So the more we can come in tune with that, the more we can be aligned, which is strengthening to all parties, rather than being at difference.
Yes.
So if I start, for example,
I just want to say something not connected to what you're saying, but I just mentioned before, Marissa translated my work to Portuguese, and I understand that Hanek really also translated my work into French and Dutch. So I'm like now getting it all together, that there are really, amongst the beautiful people who are here, there are also people who really helped this whole endeavor come to life. They helped translate my astrological cards to different languages in the world. So I'm thankful for that. Sorry, Jane, please continue. It's a lie.
I just realised I can't see who's on Facebook. So hello all, and I'm really glad you're there, and I can feel your support behind there. So thank you, because this is all quite experimental. Yeah. So if we go through the year, then I think these festivals will start to make a bit more sense. So if we start, for example, with the spring equinox, which is coming up in about 8 weeks' time, and that is the time where the southern hemisphere, the sun moves over and the baton is passed over and something is gifted, and whatever has been done during those 3 months of intense summer input into the southern hemisphere can be consolidated into their produce, which then is handed over to the northern hemisphere. And that is the moment, the transition moment of the spring equinox. And I'm talking northern hemisphere because that's where we are. So that's what happens then at March the 21st. And so then, and you know what it's like in spring, yeah? Spring, it's just like everything changes, doesn't it, all the time? Mm-hmm. Yeah? It's like you different things appear. It's just, and it seems to accelerate in its changing as it's going on. So there's plants appearing, and there's flowers appearing, and it everything feels more possible. Yeah. And you want to be outside. Yeah.
Everything is possible. The time of new beginnings. Everything is green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's that green, and just that change. Just changing, all changing. Right. Then we come to the 1st of May, which is the first of these festivals. Now, the 1st of May, is it not a festival in the Hebrew calendar at all, Karni? No, I'm amazed because it's big. It's big.
You know what? Yes, it might be the time of Shavuot. Okay. So starting from Passover, which is related to the spring equinox, usually, yes, we start to count 7 weeks. Exactly. And at the end of the 7 weeks is the time of the first harvest.
There we go. Okay.
So we do celebrate it. Yes.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. Because the other thing I didn't mention about Easter at the spring equinox, Easter, the word Easter is the same root as estrogen. It's about boom, its new appearance. Yeah. It's all.
I don't know what estrogen is. Sorry.
Estrogen is the hormone, the female.
Of course. Yes. I do know. Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Right. So it's new appearance. Right. Okay. So then we come to the 1st of May. So the 1st of May is, for the Celts, it was called Beltane. Mm-hmm. This is the moment when we are moving into the time in the northern hemisphere of maximum solar intensity. This is, if I just share screen again.
And in the meantime, I'll say that Rachel, hi Rachel from Greece, but originally from the UK as well. You should also meet Rachel. And then Rachel says that May Day, big in Cornwall, Padstow, Obi Or's Day. I have no idea what she's saying,
I
but
know.
you do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so May Day is a big day. So by the way, people, if you're here from other cultures and you have a special celebration during the 1st of May, please write it down. What do you do there in your country? Yeah.
Yeah. So here at the 1st of May, we are entering into the maximum time of the sun. We are just about to enter into that. So how do we welcome this moment where we are going to have such this full-on summer intensity? And what happens? It's the time of the young women. It's the time of marriage. There was a tradition in England that young people used to go a-maying. They used to party all night. They had garlands. They had fun. And then the church said it's all very immoral and tried to shut it down. But that's another story.
I have to say our story for that time, because I talked about Shavuot, which is the Pentecost. How do you call it in English? I don't know. But during that time,
Pentecost, yeah.
Pentecost. So during that time, in the Old Testament, there is the story of how King David's parents met, or grandparents even, and these are Ruth and Boaz, and it talks about a celebration that happened then at the time of harvest. The young maidens will go out to the harvest with white dresses, and meet the young men, and fall in love, and hopefully also marry. And this is the story of how King David's, I'm not sure if it's parents or grandparents, actually met. So it's all connected. I love that. Really amazing.
Fantastic. Then also later in England, you had the celebration of the maypole. People danced around this pole, and later on with ribbons. And if you look at the pictures, it looks like a celebration of a wedding. This is the sense of it. Fire is big, about jumping over fire, and it's yeah.
We also have fire. We also have fire. Just a week before that, or a few weeks before that, we have the celebration of fires, Lag BaOmer. Everybody sets a fire on top of a mountain.
Right. Well, the Catholic Church tried to. They wanted to almost co-opt it and take it, and so they called it the Festival of Mary. But again, it was also about young women as a young woman. And so May became the month of Mary. And so there is a common theme here, which is about late adolescent women and young men, and they are thinking about getting married, which is perfect as you are coming into the time of the solar intensity, which is well, I would call it a masculine input and a masculine influence.
Because the sun is masculine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a masculine influence that is coming in, and this is the way to welcome it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now we move through, having had the marriage, we then move through to the summer solstice. And at the summer solstice, this is the time of the peak solar intensity. This is maximum. The sun is at the farthest north. From tomorrow, after June the 21st, he will start to move further south again. He will rise further south in the sky. He will not reach so high in the sky each day. And so there is something about a handover that happens at the solstice. And the handover, this is my speculation, how it turns up to me. And also from going out and spending time outside during the solstices. And what happens is almost as if what has been received of the solar input, the planet goes, thank you, now we will give it our full expression. Thank you very much. And it's like this is the maturity of the marriage that happened in May.
Yes, and the produce, the baby, because things become ripe then, the preg or the, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the summer solstice is just really a really special time, and there's something quite magical that happens there because of this transition, this peak moment which passes.
And also this magic, there is also Shakespeare's Midsummer's Night Dream, which is the longest day, and how things become crazy, and the logical mixes with the magical, and everything really becomes intoxicating. This also has to do with the extreme polarity of planet Earth at that time, because here in the North Hemisphere we are extremely influenced by the sun, but the South Hemisphere is extremely influenced by the moon at that time, which is also why I think all the holidays should be completely the opposite in the two hemispheres, and we're doing it all wrong. And this is why I want to travel to the South Hemisphere and explore the skies and the holidays there, because you can't do it from up here. Yes, so this is just a short addition.
Another thing that happens, the Midsummer Night is the 24th of June, which is a few days after the solstice, because the sun appears to stop for a few days, just as at Christmas, it's for a few days. Okay, so we move on from the peak, and now we come into the time of the full produce. And move to the next festival, which is the 1st of August. And the 1st of August, go on.
Later, okay. I'll tell you what we're celebrating here in the Jewish tradition, okay? The 1st of August, or the full moon of Leo, okay, would be it's like the Jewish Valentine's Day. It's the celebration of love.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So what happens in the rest of the world, Jane?
Well, in the northern hemisphere, well, for sort of this far north where I am, which is a lot further north than you, this is called the Festival of the First Fruits. And so there was a tradition of the Saxon people when they were in England, this is 1500 years ago or so, they used to cut the first corn, make the first loaf of bread, and present it to the church, because this is the time when you're starting to see this produce of this solar input.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yes. Because we're talking about also, finding the relevancy for today. Yes. And whilst you're talking, and you mentioned, you're further north than I am. And it does make so much more difference, because people in different places in the world do not experience the seasons the same way. It's really amazing. Yes. So we're talking now about the 4 seasons, but around the equinox they don't have 4 seasons. Usually there is like 1 season, and maybe there are a few months with more rain and other months with less rain, but still it's like really relative. And even in the around the equator, when you cut a tree trunk and look at it, there aren't any circles inside, because these circles are created from rain and dryness, heat and cold, but there are no circles inside of the trees around the equator. And even here in Israel, we experience the seasons very, very different than you do. Yes, it's interesting, because our first harvest, because things are ripening much quicker and it's becoming hot much quicker, is around May. And in the northern hemisphere, it's around August. I'm just thinking how interesting it is that we, it's interesting that things are not black and white, and it's amazing, and it's absolutely valid. All the holidays are absolutely valid, but
Yeah,
also how important it is to be attentive to the place you are living in now, and to listen to it, and to find its unique celebrations and its unique timings, because it might be very, very different. Yes, so I'm just adding that as a thought.
absolutely, Karni. I think also that what people did in the past is a clue and a hint, because that was their best expression, their best translation at the time. So really, the question that's going on in my head all the time is what fits for now? How does this fit for now? Especially as in the last year or so, we have almost had the slate wiped clean, that we haven't been able to mix together. So how now we can really approach it
Hmm.
afresh, see how to pay our respects, and also to how to find our stability, because this is the source of our stability. This is our home. So I'm completely with you. Yes. Um, and also there are common features. It's like, yes, there's what fits specifically to one place, but also what have we got in common?
Sure, yes.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and even if it's not in common, we can take a look and see, what works together, because the extreme of summer works together with the extreme of winter. This is what creates the magic all around the world.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to tell something about talking all around the world. There was a conversation, Lisa might remember this because she was on the same call. There was a friend of ours in Australia was saying how for the Aborigines, the 1st of August was something like Caterpillar Day, where a certain type of caterpillar first makes its appearance.
Mm.
So there was a recognition, and and they put a different clothing on it, but the day is still the
Yeah.
day.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's the first. So in the northern hemisphere, or in this part of the northern
Hmm.
fruit, and that's called lamas, or lunasa is another name for it. And so that's again in the fixed sign of Leo. Um, and then we move on to the equinox.
Hmm.
Yeah, September equinox. And at the September equinox, then you have the other transition, and it's almost like, well, in this part of the world it's like the second harvest, and we start seeing different fruits, and we start thinking about preserving things and gathering things in and stuff. And there's almost, yeah, go on, go on.
No, continue, and then I'll tell you what we're doing here. It's very small Israel, but I'll share. But please continue.
Well, no, I'll finish, carry on.
So in the Jewish tradition, the autumn solstice is actually the Jewish New Year, and
Yeah,
there are three different holidays all around this time, which is the actual New Year. There is Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day, which is the day of judgment. So also to do with getting into the Libra part of the year, classical Libra. And the other holiday is the gathering of all the leftover fruit. So you talked about thinking about preserving things. So you're preparing for
yeah,
fall and for winter.
yeah. Right. So then from that equinox, we transition towards the next festival, the next quarter day, which is Samhain. And Samhain is Halloween. It's the 31st of October. It's also, this is just an amazing time. It's a really magical time. This is when I'm going to bring up the screens just so you can see again. This is the time, November the 1st, where we are moving from the transition time into the state time of winter. And this is just really special. This is where the magic begins. This is where the mystery begins, because it starts to get misty. It's in this part in Northern Europe, it's the third of the harvests. So So traditionally, people brought the animals in, they decided which animals were not going to come in. And so there's a real cleaning and sorting out time now. What do we want to go into the winter with, and what do we leave outside? What can't come in with us? It's that kind of a sense. And yeah, go on.
No, no. So I'm thinking that, first of all, at least one holiday that I know of, I think that we all heard of, which is Halloween, which is All Saints' Night, which is also the time of the dead, right? So this is the time of honoring the dead. And it really works together with the holiday that is across it. I do everything upside down. I saw that you put the winter solstice here. I can't, because of the astrological chart, I can't do that, but it's okay. So it's interesting that, this line on one hand between the 1st of May, which is right the time of life and the marriage, right? And here is the time of death, or the dead, or the transition to the afterlife. So they really work together.
Because they are both about to enter the state time. So they are both coming into the state time, either the state time of winter or the state time of summer. In Mexico, they have a really big festival, El Día de los Muertos. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
We'll ask Marisa if, no, Marisa speaks Portuguese, not Spanish. So I think everybody will excuse you.
But also there are many traditions in many places about leaving a place for the dead people, taking picnics on the graves of dead ancestors. So why is this? And the reason is because as we are entering into the time of mistiness, of where things are not so strong. The sun is in its minimum quarter in the north. So all that strong summer definition has gone. And what is hidden can start to come and make itself known. So there's a tradition in Ireland that people could start to talk to the fairies then, because the fairies were able to come out. So it's like, so what does this say? This is a really important festival, I think. And what it says to me is, be careful what you go forward with, because you are going into a confinement of 3 months of minimum sunshine, where what is inside can start to come out.
Yeah.
So,
and another thing that I heard really recently, yes, from, I don't remember where she lives, a friend that lives really up there in the north, like Norway, or Sweden, Denmark, somewhere. We were talking about the winter time, and she said that her experience from the winter time is actually that as the sun is not there, you would think, that you would go inward and it will be gloomier, but she actually feels that this is the time of connecting to the universe. And this is so, in small, it's like the difference between day and night, or in big, actually. These holidays are like a day, but in the larger scale, because the winter is the night of the year. And during the day or the summer, we can only see planet Earth because the sun reflects us to us. And during the night, when the sun is somewhere else, or depends, during the day it's here, during the winter it's down here, yes, but it's somewhere else, then actually we think we don't see, but actually we see the universe. So it really opens up.
Yes, absolutely. So in the daytime, when the sun is shining, you can't see the stars. How do you connect to the universe? You have to wait until night, where the sun is hidden behind the planet, and then you can start to engage with the rest of the galaxy.
So just yes. Sorry, we have a question from Marissa, which didn't hear what is All Saints Day. So we talked about Halloween, and Marissa, you said that you have it in Portugal. If you can write a few words about how you celebrate Halloween in Portugal, that would be wonderful. And we also have a hello from a friend, our friend Nigel Gives, I think also in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so please continue, and we'll see if Marissa can add a few things about the tradition in Portugal during Halloween. Sorry for stopping you, Jane. I'm also interacting with our listeners and viewers and friends.
Yeah, so this is the time. Yeah, I know what I was going to say. So you're talking about your friend in the north of Norway. You were talking earlier about the equator, and in the equatorial zone, you don't have seasons. We don't have the 4 seasons. We have those in the temperate zones between the tropics, either Capricorn or Cancer, and the circle, the Arctic Circle or the Antarctic Circle. And north of those or south of those circles, you just have two. You have winter and summer, and the changeover is a matter of days. Boom, it goes. Yeah, and so it's like a day and night. And so yes, the winter is just this other realm that they enter into, like having a night for several months of the year. Anyway, coming back to the story. Yeah, sorry.
I think, that it's very special that we can start to have a global overview of the world and of the holidays, because till now, I think people didn't have that. Because, today we can open the Zoom and talk to our friends in Australia, UK, Brazil, Europe, Israel, and you can see actually someone is in during nighttime and someone else is during daytime. You can actually sit. I think we're developing to include a much broader view of planet Earth and the people in it and the countries and the different essences and celebrations of planet Earth in it, the nuances. It's I think it's very unique, and I know that probably it wasn't like that ever in the world. Yes, I'm thinking about ancient cultures. They knew what they knew about their place. If they conquered another country, they will put their holidays in that country, even if they don't fit at all that country's weather or timings. And today something else. I think we can have a more global view of the world. And it doesn't mean that everything needs to be the same. On the contrary, the idea is for everybody to be unique and to celebrate their holidays. Not to become unified, but to have the wonderful diversity. Yes, the uniqueness of the diversity.
Yes. Completely with you. Yes.
Continue, Jane, please. Let's go to the winter solstice.
Right, so then we move on. We enter more and more into this misty time where there's very little definition, and so other things can make themselves known. And wow, and then we go to the winter solstice where there is the peak of this, and that is such a long period, and it just goes on for such a while, and that is such a special time of the year. And the Christians only put the birth of Jesus there they decided about 360 AD. Well, this time is already being celebrated, so we'll put Jesus's birth there as well. And
the new year, the calendaric new year is also around that time, which is
yes, absolutely. So you have
because anyhow people celebrated that time.
Yes, yeah. So you have the winter solstice on about the 21st of December, and then it's like this 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 5 days, and then you have in the Christian tradition, the 12 days of Christmas, which take you through over the new year. And it's a time of utter suspension, utter, like everything else is excluded. This is a time, it is the culmination time of this winter magic.
Yes.
Yeah, and it is a time where, even for the ancient Romans, they called it Saturnalia,
Yes.
where you had 5 days which were out of the 365 days. Yeah, it has 5 days. This is a separate time.
Yes. And in the Jewish tradition, we have Hanukkah, which is also a very long celebration, 8 days of lighting candles. So you start with lighting 1 candle the first day, 2 candles the second day, till you have the full Chanukiah, which is the candle holder with 8 candles lit in it. So,
Right.
so during the darkest time, we actually lit light, and we also see it with all the Christmas lights and everything, which is, I think, it gives joy to see all this light, but also I think we're helping, helping the light to come back to Earth.
Yes. There's something about that time also. It's just a time out, because it's that sense of a time out of time. It's like you can't imagine being, once it's gone, you can't remember it. It just feels like such a different time. And then you moving on, you move to the 1st of January, and January being Janus, the god who looks both ways. And so, so you look backward and forward. And so this is when you start to look out, because now you are moving away from the maximum intensity of winter. You are moving towards Imbolg,
which is tomorrow. So
yes. And what people decide, what happens at New Year and January the 1st is, it's like there's a condensation, a concentration. What have I come to? What has been consolidating in me in this time? And I will make some New Year's resolutions. I will decide how I am going to proceed from here, from what has been allowed to surface, or what is allowed to be meditated upon in this magical suspended time. Yeah. And then we move. So it's like a change of direction from the winter solstice. Instead of going into the darkness or into the mystery, we're now coming out of it, or starting to come out of it. It's a change in direction. And then that brings you to this point here, where now is the time to leave the winter behind, to leave that time of inner mystery, and start to move towards definition. How do I engage? What do I want to bring? What do I go forward with? I made my New Year's resolutions back in January. Now it's time to act on them. Now it's time to walk my talk. And now, this time of Imbolg, we will forget what winter was like. We will lose it, and it's like all those magical and mysterious and revelatory things that happened that were entrusted to us then. Now we need to condense them into almost like a gem, so that we can go forward into the rest of the year. And so that's why this time, I feel it really needs recognizing and naming.
Sure.
And so to put a bit of tradition on it, it's Hanukkah will know, in France it's called Chandeleur, which is and in English it's Candlemas in the church, which is the time when candles were lit also, but not fires. This is candles. It's just a small thing. Yeah. Also in around the Celtic fringes, there was the second most important, well, the most important goddess in Ireland is Bridget, and she was so important that the Catholic Church had to give her a job. So they said she was the wet nurse or something for Jesus. She was there assisting at his birth, the midwife or the wet nurse or something. Because she was so important. She is still so important. So at this time of year, on the western fringes of the British Isles, there were traditions of making a bed for her, making a symbol of her, welcoming her into the house and greeting her.
And what qualities that does Bridget hold? What is she?
She's
carrier?
she's all sorts. She's just everything, but she's very nice.
So is it? I'm wondering, like, is it about the more feminine aspect? You know,
Well, yes, it is. It's about the nurse and the hearth and the home, but also maybe also fighting, but maybe defending the home. But she is quite. I don't know. I couldn't say more.
Yes. No. I'm thinking. So it's wonderful. Wow.
And there's one more thing I want to say, which is now that we're at this time of Imbolg, is that tomorrow is also Groundhog Day.
Which, apart from the movie, I don't know about at all.
Well, it was a tradition that was taken from Germany, and when they got to America, they didn't. I think they used beavers or something, or squirrels or something in Germany, but they used a groundhog in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, which is where that film was. And so they say when the groundhog comes out, if he sees his shadow, there's either more winter or less winter. So it's something about a moment where you see, is winter going to continue or not? But what caught me about it was the film itself was about a person who had not condensed what he could go forward with. It was the main character is a man who is in contradiction, who actually really dislikes himself, and he goes through this process of reliving and reliving and reliving a day until he can find something that he wants to go forward with. And for me, that's, if we are working well with these cycles, we also take forward and go to new elevations with each turn of the cycle.
Yes. I'm also thinking in the Jewish tradition, we say that there are 4 New Years, 4 different New Years, probably to do with these timings or these timings. And one of the natural, so the 4 New Years are the actual New Year which for us is during September's equinox. There is the King's New Year's. There is the tree's New Year's, which is actually during Imbolg. So we have at this time exactly the celebration for the trees, the New Year's for the trees. For us, this is the time to plant trees. Yes, of course, the seasons are different. So we can sense the beginning of spring here much quicker than you would. So it's interesting that this is the time of planting a seed. And there are other like New Year's for I don't remember, the kings or whatever. But I'm thinking, what would be the process that we want to do now? Yes, if we want to do the right thing at the right time, have our own ceremony, mark this day, yes? So I think, first of all, light a candle. Now, I'm also thinking about this time where you have January 1st as a new year, with the calendar's new year, but you also have the spring solstice, the equinox, the spring equinox of March 21st, which marks the astrological new year. So we're like in between 2 new years. So we have like a time to really think what it is that we want to do. Yes, so as if January 1st, we can say, yes, we want to do this and that during the next coming year. But now we can go back and refine it and give it more form and really sit down maybe with a plan. These days also Mercury is retrograding, which I think is brilliant and wonderful this time, because not as people think with Mercury retrograde to be a horrible thing. It's actually a time to rethink things and to reorganize things and to revisit your previous thoughts. So this really fits also with this time of year. Of course, it's not always that Mercury retrogrades during this time. Just this year it happens to be together, but it feels that this is the nature of this time, which is to revise what we really, the resolutions that we did during January 1st, and to give it more form, more context, because whatever we plant now will blossom at spring. So we do want to be mindful and thinking about the general astrology. My astrological prediction is for the world really to reopen around March, April with like full fantastic blossom, because like a rubber band, we were pulled back for a whole year so long. So now pew, things are really going to shoot forward, but then we really want now to plan well what it is that we want to happen, right?
Yes, yes, it's something like that. It's like there's a leeway time. So at the 1st of January, we can make our resolutions, we can decide, because this is the time when we are coming out of the maximum depths of winter and we are starting to change direction. And now is the time where it has to be put into almost consolidated, because the time that has gone, we won't be there anymore. We are leaving the dreamy time behind. It's not going to be dreamy anymore. We're into a different function now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is the time where we're still half dreaming, but we can really maybe imagine the coming year and
Yeah.
put it in our mind. Really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
beautiful. Wow, amazing. Amazing, Jane. We're towards the end. We did hear back from Marissa about Halloween. So thank you, Marissa, for writing. I'll read it later on, and I recommend everybody to read what Marissa wrote about the Portuguese tradition. Oh, I'll read it. I'll read it. Okay. So going back to Halloween in Portugal, we've always celebrated All Saints Day, whereas Halloween celebrations have only begun taking place a few years ago. On All Saints Day, people go to the cemetery to honor their loved ones. They clean the graves, decorate them with flowers, and light up candles. Halloween has been gaining space as the English language is taught at schools. So it is very much celebrated as kids love to dress up with scary costumes. So this is again taking something so unique and special and making a circus out of it, which is really sad, I think. Yes, this is my addition to what Marissa said. Don't like it. Oh, so we agree, Marissa. Don't like it because it is not a Portuguese tradition. So they don't see the point of celebrating it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
No,
yes.
I
I absolutely agree with that.
yeah.
So taking something so special and making something different out of it. And Hanek, yes, and we make pancakes made from flour left from the last harvest in Chandeleur. Wow, this is beautiful. And she adds, instead of 4 seasons traditionally, it sounds that we should have 8. Is that the case in the Celtic tradition? So I think so, because the Celtic tradition really celebrates all I yes. all all 8. So yes. And Enav read, oh, thank you, Enav, that Bridget symbolizes the fire of inspiration, stimulation power. So I love the fact that people add to this research. So
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And just to end with the fact that what these holidays actually draw, yes, so we have the planetary cross, which is the sign of of planet Earth. But this cross is called the solar cross, which is the symbol of moving through an octave into something much, much higher than planetary, opening up to the universe. Ha!
Well, thank
Okay.
you so much for the opportunity to explore this, because this is just, it just feels really important to me. I just absolutely love this area.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, yes, I remember that when you said, "Oh, I want to explore this," I said, first people need to hear the basics, then we can explore. But there was lots of live exploration and research, and so many new things that came during this conversation, also with the help of people who were here listening in. So this is so brilliant, Jane. I really want to thank you so much for taking the time and giving us this really beautiful and wonderful information. I would ask from everybody that if it was great, please mark your love, your heart here, and please share this video with more friends, because it's Imbolg tomorrow, and you can really help people understand the importance of this time. So please spread the message on with friends. And I think we'll sign off and leave you with a candle to celebrate this time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, and thank you.
Bye bye.